introduce you to Jason Fox Cambot. He's here in the middle. Can you give a sign, Fox Cambot, that you're here? Oh, no, he cannot because he has to record the session. So you all know the session is going to be recorded. Please feel free to tell me if you don't want to be recorded, that your voice is not being recorded or your avatar. We stop the session or the recording then after the talk and the music of Greg. Also, I want to introduce you to Bogdan. Bogdan is here. He's the moderator of this session, and he's also doing a lot of great things in AltSpace. So really cool that you are part of this, both of you, part of the team, and we cannot do it without a great team. So thank you for being here and doing this every week. And also Laurel, I don't know if she's still here. She was here, but she needed to go. She's one of the founders of Educators in VR, together with Daniel Debosky Bryant. They founded this beautiful platform, the Educators in VR, and to bring this space for everybody to share knowledge and join forces. My name is Dana Maria Vaneker, and I've been sailing around the world on big traditional sailing vessels, first as a crew member and later as a captain, and now I help people to become the captains of their lives, and virtual reality is the most powerful tool to help me with my mission. That's why I founded a company called Captain VR, and we help people with coaching and personal development. And I'm so proud to be part of the Educators in VR. This is this platform, and I'm the team leader of the V Coaching and Personal Development track. And the mission is to build a network of people around the world who are interested in coaching and personal development, and provide them an interactive space where they can communicate, share knowledge, support, connect, and inspire each other, and even join forces. And to create a better real world for everyone. That is important. We want to create a real world, a better real world. Also a virtual world, but especially a real world. And today's guest speaker is Gregory Michael. Greg was born in Belgium and lived and traveled back and forth between the US, Europe, Africa, and Scandinavia. And Greg is currently lives on this small Caribbean island called Caye Caulker, and that's from Belize, an island in the Caribbean. And he works there as a professional musician. And now he is here all the way from Caye Caulker. Thank you for being here. Give him a big hand. Gregory Michael.
It's hard to give a hand when you have no arms. Can you all hear me?
Here, give him a big hand with the emojis.
Oh, there you go. Great. So can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Well, it's very cool to see all of you here, kind of, sort of, at least see some cartoon image of you anyway. And great that you could join us. My understanding is that the focus today is sort of in the genre of coping with COVID, and how everyone can, in their own different way, cope with what is going on across the world with respect to COVID and the lockdowns and some of the other stuff that's going on. So just a brief history. Yes, I was born in Europe. I grew up in Europe and Scandinavia, and a bulk of my childhood in Africa. My parents were missionaries, so I had the wonderful experience of living in Central Africa for much of my childhood. And then it was a lot of back and forth, and at some point I did end up living in the States for quite some time, and getting married and having a family and so on. And of course I did music as a youngster. I did musical theater. I did rock and roll bands, touring around, and did all kinds of stuff. In my later years, I wrote musical scores for plays and so forth. And when I retired back in 2013, I had fallen in love with Central America. Two of my brothers had been living in and out of Guatemala for many years. So I had done quite some traveling down here and diving and so forth. And at some point, I was in Guatemala and decided that I wanted to go do some diving. And so my brother and I headed to the coast. And while waiting for a boat to cross over from Guatemala into Belize, we met two young Dutch gals, and we ended up hanging out with them for a while. And a week later, I went back and hung out with them again, did some diving off the coast of Honduras. And long story short, one of those young gals ended up becoming my wife, and her name is Liberty. And when I retired in 2013, I believe it was, Liberty and I decided to semi-retire here in the Caribbean. I had loved Belize so much that time that I went diving there and met Liberty and her sister, that I came back and bought a little piece of land on a tiny little island off the coast. And it had a cool little community, very kind of Rasta Garifuna community. It had a good expat community from people from all over the world. Some of my best friends here are from Italy. We have some good Dutch friends, and of course Americans and Canadians and French and so forth. And had a good little music scene, a fair amount of tourism. And so I bought a little piece of land here. And over the course of the last 6 years or so, my wife and I, just the two of us, have been slowly developing the land. It's in an area of the island that was relatively undeveloped. There were no roads, so we had to build our own road, and that took us a season. At the time, we were spending about 5 or 6 months a year here, and so we built our road, we cleared our lot, we filled the land, we proceeded to plant all kinds of trees and bushes, and over the course of the last 5 years, we've been building our house. Again, just the two of us, everything by hand, hand tools mostly. This area has no power, so everything is off grid. So the houses that are here in this section of the island are all solar and rainwater collection. So our house will be all green with solar and some wind for electricity, rainwater collection, composting toilets. So it's kind of cool. But about a 10-minute bike ride, and we're in the village. And the village is quite cool. It's got all kinds of little clubs and restaurants and hotels and so forth, and a great little music scene. So I've been able to perform as much as I want here to people from all over the world, which has been really wonderful for me. Of course, when the lockdowns began to occur, Belize is somewhat of a third world country. It's very poor, and it really kind of has relied on the international community, the IMF, the United States, Great Britain. It's part of the British Commonwealth. It's relied on those institutions to really bolster its tourism industry. And tourism represents about 65 to 70% of the country's GDP. So it's heavily reliant upon tourism. And so whatever the US does, pretty much Belize does. And so when the United States started locking down and shutting down, Belize did the same. It closed its borders, it shut its airport, and it effectively shut down tourism completely. On this little island, tourism represents about 90% of the economy of the island. It used to be a little fishing island, but now it's pretty much a tourist island. As a result, 90% unemployment. And very early on in the process, many of us saw that it was going to become a problem for a lot of the poor people on the island who were basically supporting the tourism industry, working in the restaurants and the hotels and doing the construction. And so we became involved in organizing a group of local restaurants and volunteers on the island, and we created what's called the Caye Caulker Soup Kitchen. And basically, with the help of volunteers and restaurants, my wife wrote a GoFundMe drive, and they managed to raise money and feed people on the island who could not afford to feed themselves. Basically, without a job, they have no way of paying. In many cases, they have to pay rent or electricity and water. There is a small desalinization plant on the island, so to get water, you have to pay for it. It's a government-owned company. And then, of course, you have to buy food. And because it's a small island, there's no agriculture. All the food comes from the mainland. So there was a lot of unemployment. And so we created the Caye Caulker Soup Kitchen. And for 6 months now, have been feeding ever-increasing amount of people on the island. Currently, we're feeding about 500 a day. So that's been sort of our way of coping with all of the stress associated with the lockdowns and the COVID. I was doing an online musical program. Every Friday we were doing streaming live online music from all over the world. We had musicians from the United States and in England and Europe and all over performing and raising money for the food soup kitchen. So we were able to, just through our music, we were able to raise about $7,000 or $8,000 towards the soup program. So anyway, that's kind of my story. That's where we are now, and that's how we've kind of found some way of dealing with the COVID crisis and finding meaning in our day-to-day activities, is so that we can, find a way to help people who have really been harmed from all the lockdowns. And there are many, many people worldwide. Starvation is a big issue right now in India and Africa as a result of the lockdowns. And of course, suicides are up and domestic violence is up. And there are a lot of issues that have come up as a result of all these lockdowns. So, yeah, that's been our way of finding something we can help to do. So that's my story. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask. And if not, I'll just start playing some music.
Yes, I'm gonna push. Can you? Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna put the raise hand button on the right hand bottom side. You see the raise hand button now. So you can push this button and ask your question. I will unmute you then, because if I need to mute you, everybody, because or else we hear a lot of background noises. So please, if you have a question to Greg about this story, about how they're handling the crisis, about how much money they raised. I think $80,000 you raised. I didn't hear you say that, but I think you did 80,000
the Caye Caulker Soup Kitchen has raised about 80,000 US dollars. That's correct. Yep.
Amazing. So anybody, is there a question? Please push the raise hand button on your right hand bottom side. So on the right hand near there's a raise hand. Just push the button and I can unmute you if you have a question. If you don't have a question, then Greg can just play the music he came to play here. So I think people want to hear the music. Oh, there's a question. Let me see who is that. Matthias. Yes, please, you are unmuted.
Curious to know who local residents, the people that live on your village, do they blame anyone for, in relation to COVID? Is, for example, government, or maybe for religious reasons, or kind of something else, conspiracy, or they just accepted and only the way it is, let's say.
Did you understand the question, Greg?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, Belize is a very poor country, so I think the average annual earnings are somewhere in the 5,000 US dollars a year or something. So it's a very poor country. So maybe 4,000 or 5,000 euros a year. And their educational status is actually quite low. They do have schools here, but they're not really public in the same sense of the word that you might think of in Europe or in the United States. They do cost money. Families have to buy all their own books and all their own supplies and deal with transportation. And so since families are very poor, a lot of kids just don't go to school. And as a result, the general population is not particularly well educated. And so they don't really kind of have the same grasp of some aspects. And because they unfortunately watch a lot of television, American television, they are exposed to all the terrible, I'm sorry, I'm letting my own opinions come out here, but American news is terrible. Whether it's CNN or MSNBC or Fox or any of them, it's sensationalist above all else, because they're all looking for ratings. They all want ratings. And, the bulk of American media is owned by 6 corporations. So, and they're all for-profit corporations. So for them, it's about numbers. And so Belizeans watch, American TV. They watch Fox and MSNBC and CNN. And so they get a very kind of distorted picture. And so there's a lot of paranoia here, a lot of fear about this dangerous virus that's going to wipe out mankind. So, and the government basically just follows whatever the CDC says or the World Health Organization says. They don't really have independent experts like the Netherlands has or Sweden has or Denmark has, who come out and say, well, this is our opinion and we're going to take a more balanced approach. They've taken a very fear-based approach here. And so they just shut everything down. I mean, they just basically shut the economy down. And as far as how the average Belizean feels about that, you'll find that the more, there's a divergence. There are those that are just completely paranoid and they're willing to do almost anything because they don't want to die. And then there are those that are more savvy to alternative sources of information, and they are more skeptical and feel that the propaganda and fear mongering has gotten a little bit out of control, and that Belize needs to find a more balanced approach. So it goes both ways, much like it does in much of the rest of the world. But unfortunately, here there's no safety net. In the Netherlands or in the United States, there's a safety net, but there's no safety net here. So people are really struggling. If that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Matthäus, for your question. Is there any other question here that we can ask Greg, or else we're gonna let him play some music? If there's no more questions, we can just listen to the music of Greg. There's no more questions, so let's get it on.
How sweet is to love God. Oh yeah, how sweet is to love God. I needed the shelter of someone's arms, and then you were. I needed someone to understand my ups and downs, and then you were. with sweet love in your deeply touching my emotion. I won't stop and thank you, baby. I just want to stop and thank you, baby. Yeah, and how sweet it is to be loved by you. Oh yeah, and how sweet it is to be loved by you. I close my eyes at night, just wondering where would I be without you in my life. Everything I did was just a fool, and everywhere I went, it seemed to have been there before. But you brightened up all of my day. Love so sweet in so many ways. I won't stop and thank you, baby. Oh, I just want to stop and thank you, baby. You know that I do. And how sweet it is to be loved by you. Oh yeah, and how sweet it is to be loved by you. You were better to me than I was to myself. For me there's you, and there ain't nobody else. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Yes, I just want to stop and thank you, baby. Oh yeah, and how sweet it is to be loved by you. Baby, how sweet it is to be loved by you. Like sugar sometime, na 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 na. Oh yeah, and how sweet it is to be loved by you. Like honey sugar bee, baby, na 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 na. Oh yeah, how sweet it is to be loved by you. It looks like we lost most of everybody, but I don't know how that sounded. How did it sound? Well, as long as it's not too distorted. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you that there's no one else above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my trouble, it's what you do. For the morning sun with all its glory greets the day with hope and comfort too. Fill my life with laughter, somehow you make it better. Ease my trouble, it's what you do. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours you. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you that there's no one that's above you? You fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my trouble, it's what you do. You take away all my sadness, fill my life with gladness, ease my trouble, it's what you do. Now down to, that was of course originally written by Van Morrison back in 1989. Little Bill Withers. There ain't no sunshine when she's gone. There ain't no sunshine when she's away. There ain't no sunshine when she's gone. She's always gone too long. And the time she goes away, I wonder this time where she's gone. I wonder if she's gone to stay. There ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home. And the time she goes away, and I know, 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 yeah, I'm gonna leave this thing alone. There ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and it's not warm when she's away. There ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always gone too long. And the time she goes away, and the time she goes away, and the time that she goes away, and the time she goes away. When I'm sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and I'll watch them all away again. When I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I at my home in Georgia, headed for Bristol Bay. I had nothing to live for, seemed like nothing gonna come my way. Oh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, just watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. It looks like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Just sitting here, resting my bones. Yeah, this loneliness won't leave me alone. There's 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Well, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Now the Otis Redding. Whoops. So normally I have a book that I pass out. It's got about 500, 600 songs in it. Everybody just kind of picks a song from the book they'd like to hear. This is an old Cat Stevens song. Looks like we've managed to eliminate almost everybody. What have we got? 3 of us left right now, huh? 4 of us maybe. It's not time to make a change. Just relax, take it easy. Still young, that's your fault. There's so much more you have to know. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Forget me, I am old, but I'm happy. And I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy to be calm when you found something going on. You take your time, think a lot, just think of everything you've got. You will still be here tomorrow, though your dreams may not. And how could I try to explain when I do turn away? But it's always been the same old story. And from the moment I could talk, I was ordered to listen. But now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. Yes, I know I have to go. It's not time to make a change. Just sit down, take it slowly. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much more you have to go through. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, then you can marry. Look at me, I am old, but I'm happy. And all the times that I've cried, keeping all the things I knew inside. Well, it's hard, but it's harder to ignore it. If they were right, then I'd agree. But it's them, they know, not me. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go. Yes, I know I have to go. That'll catch series. How does it sound, Donna?
Yes, it was really nice, really beautiful,
Okay.
really emotional.
It's not just, okay, as long as you can, it's not fading in and out or distorting or.
No, yeah, it is a little bit, but it's not like very you know, it's part of this platform, so don't worry about it. That's great. Maybe people can do like they can ask you for something to sing. Maybe there's a request. You can ask someone to request a song.
Sure, if they have an artist, a particular artist in mind or a song that they have in mind, sure.
Yeah, so if you have a request, you can raise the hand button, push the raise hand button on your right bottom side. If you would like to hear a song that you think Greg could sing, and if he has it in his book, then he can probably sing it for you. So just raise the hand button until Greg, you can start playing again, Greg, because there's no raised hand yet, and maybe they come up with a song later.
Only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Oh. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. You let her go. hoping one day you'll make the dream last. The dreams come slow and they go so fast. Well, you see you when you close your eyes. Maybe one day you'll understand why everything you touch surely dies. But you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her, you let her go. You only know you get high when you feel low. Only hit the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her, you let her go. I stare at the ceiling in the dark. Same old empty feeling in your heart. As love comes slow and it goes so fast. Well, you can see you when you fall asleep, but never to touch and never to keep, 'cause you loved her too much and you dive too deep. But you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her, you let her go. You only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her, let her go. You only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her, let her go. And you let her go. Yeah, you let her go. Yeah, you let her go. But you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her, let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only know the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. Oh, and you let her go.
Yes, I think we had a request. I'm not sure. Can you unmute yourself? Unmute yourself, I mean. Yes, thank you. So I think, yes, it was you, Flower. Do you have a request? I will unmute you if you have a request. Or maybe you pushed by accident the raise hand button. I will just unmute you. Oh, I don't find you. Where are you? No, you're not here. Maybe I can unmute everybody for a second to let you ask your question. Yes, Flower, do you have a request? Can you say something? Anybody else? Is it me that doesn't hear her?
No, everything is okay. So it was amazing. Thank you for the time. It was really very nice. I had a request if it's
great.
If it's possible. Carlos Santana
Yes.
was a great guitar singer. So if you know something from his repertoire, it would be really great to hear it again. Greg.
Did you say Santana?
Carlos Santana.
Yeah, I when I play with other musicians, if I have a lead guitarist and a bass player and so forth, I do some Santana. It's a little difficult to do Santana on an acoustic guitar by myself.
Okay.
It's not to say I can't, but I don't think I would do it justice.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. No problem. It's just an idea.
But good suggestion. Good suggestion. I like him too. But maybe another request, but is more for the guitar player suited. Like anybody. Okay, Hotel California, can you play that? Oh no, you cannot play that. I asked you before. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that is possible. Good. Thank you.
All the doctors at highway, cool wind in my head, warm smell of eucalyptus rising up through the air. And up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. There she stood in the doorway, I heard the mission bell. And I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. She lit the candle and she showed me the way. And there were voices down the corridor, I thought I heard them say, welcome to the Hotel California. It's such a lovely place, such a lovely place, such a lovely place. Let me through in the Hotel California. Any time of year, you can find me here. Her mind is definitely twisted. She's got a Mercedes Benz. She's got a lot of pretty boys that she called friends. They dance in the courtyard, sweet summer sweat. Some dance to remember, but some dance to forget. So I called him, Captain, please bring me my wine. And he said, we haven't had that spirit here since 1969. Still those voices are calling from far away. Wake you up in the middle of the night just to hear them say, welcome to the Hotel California. It's such a lovely place, such a lovely place, such a lovely place. Living it up in the Hotel California. What a nice surprise, what a nice surprise. We were right by. Mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice. We are all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chamber, they gather for the feast. Stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was heading for the door. I had to find a passage back to the place I was before. Good night, said the mainland. We are programmed to receive. So you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
That was so great. That was amazing. Amazing. Really beautiful last song. Because we want to, of course, make a selfie with you and ask you maybe some more questions until the time is up, and we only have 5 minutes left. But this was, thank you so much for this amazing last song. Or hopefully, maybe you're going to play again with us one time in virtual reality outspace in the future, because this was a really great experience. We never did this before, and I think we did it really. It really worked. You know, it could be better always. You know, with the sounds but the technology is going to progress in this direction, in the right direction. But it was really beautiful. Thank you.
I'm glad.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes, please.
I've actually been to Caye Caulker in Belize. I still remember the coconut pies there. And I read what you, the topic of this talk. I have a lot of friends that are also in Bali. And a lot of these places, I missed the main part of the talk, but a lot of these...
Sorry. Greg, can you mute yourself, please? Yeah.
A lot of these tourism-based places, like where you're at right now, are really struggling because a lot of the economy is dependent upon tourism. In Bali, it's very much similar, and a lot of the people there right now are looking at kind of going back native. So kind of working the land. They're also looking at kind of using blockchain and looking at kind of more kind of getting back to local community and collectively supporting individuals, and then really looking at like you're talking about, going back to farming. I think going back to farming, being able to raise food, and then helping each other just on the basics. And then I think with the expats that you guys have there too, of looking at new models of leveraging technology for kind of generating income, is what I missed your main part of the talk, but I know a lot of people in Bali that are kind of supporting the locals there. I'm just curious as to how you see this developing, and is there a way to kind of network these different places or come up with best practices solutions to help each other?
Yeah, those are all good questions. Of course, the big issue is, what's going to happen as we move forward. I think most of the people here are hoping that that the virus just kind of becomes less of a focus and kind of joins the pool of all the other viruses that are on the globe, and people can kind of get back to normal. I think everyone here is really looking towards that the airports are going to open up, tourism is going to come back, and we're all just going to kind of slip back into normal. whether or not that happens is going to depend primarily upon what the international organizations and the governments do, right? And everybody has different opinions about that. Of course, I have very strong opinions about that myself. But I think that's what most people here are kind of hoping. In the absence of that, however, in the interim time, the biggest issue we've had here on Caye Caulker, and it's cool that you've been to Caye Caulker, by the way. When were you in Caye Caulker last?
Probably, I'd like to say around 93. Long time ago.
Okay, so that was a while ago. That was a while ago.
But I did. I was in. I started out kind of in the Yucatan Peninsula, and then I went to Belize. I went to Caye Caulker. There's diving at the Blue Hole, and then I went to Tikal from there. It was part of a trip, but I really loved the couple days that I spent there, kind of living on the beach and everything. And the coconut pies. I miss the coconut pies.
Yeah, well, a lot has changed here since '93. The island really, Belize really, I want to say in the early 2000s, Belize as a country, the government of Belize really focused its entire economy on increasing tourism and trying to get as much dollars out of the tourist industry as possible. So the explosion of tourism on the island, even just in the last 6 or 7 years, has been phenomenal, and actually all across Belize. Caye Caulker is now the second most visited tourist destination in Belize. And so, camping on the beach, while you can still do it, it's an exception. And of course, what's happened is backpackers now are generally have a lot more money than backpackers did in the 90s and 80s and 70s. And so while there are still a few hostels left on the island, the backpackers, can get a hotel room with air conditioning, and 4 people can sleep in it, and it costs them the same amount per person as it would to stay in a hostel almost.
Greg, can you just hold on a minute?
Yep.
And mute yourself, please. Because I want to thank the technical service who this team who helped us today. I mean, Bogdan and Jason helped us out today with the technical service, and we cannot do this without a good team. So thank you so much for being here. If you have to leave to other events or have to go somewhere else, please do, and don't hesitate to go. We just want to make one picture before you all go, with, of course, the musician, Greg. So if we can come stand next to you, and we can have a picture with all of us, with all the guests who are still here. Please come next to us, stand next to us. Yes, please. And we have one last picture together, and then we still can stay a little bit longer, but then the people who have to go then just can go. I add productive